Well, climate change is prompting collaboration between government, scientists and the broader society to find ways to mitigate the impact. The world is getting warmer, with droughts, floods and heat waves set to become even more regular. Now, the Western Cape government has partnered with the School for Climate Studies at Stellenbosch University, and this is, of course, expected to look at ways of mitigating the impact of climate change on the agricultural sector. Our reporter, eNCA's Kevin Brandt, joins us from Stellenbosch for more on this. And Kevin, a very warm good morning to you. I mean, what rather is expected to come out of this collaboration and partnership with the Stellenbosch University?
A very good morning to you, Tumela. Well, on the back of the adverse weather and the storm that we've experienced recently here in the Western Cape, the Agriculture Department has now signed a memorandum of agreement with the Stellenbosch University School of Climate Studies, and that is to investigate how the agriculture sector in particular can be better protected against changing and adverse weather conditions. We've globally seen the impact of climate change and how that has affected various sectors in society. So here at Homefront and more locally, the Western Cape is the country's key commercial farming sector, and generating in the region of about 64 billion rand annually. So quite a lot of the province's employment as well as the job creation then lies within the agriculture sector, and that is why the Western Cape government has formed a partnership with the university to study how in future the outlook might be when it comes to climate and weather conditions. And we know that crops in particular needs to be grown under very strict conditions. And if that changes over time, then farmers will have to pivot the way that they look at that production, and they will have to change the way that they do things, obviously backed by science. That is why the local authorities here have joined forces with the scientists at the University of Stellenbosch to investigate in particular how they're going to be doing that, Tumelo. But earlier today I spoke to Agriculture MEC, Dr. Ivan Meyer, and he mapped out the importance of this collaboration for the Western Cape government with the University of Stellenbosch.
From the World Economic Forum, that 7 out of the 10 global risks are related, directly or indirectly related to climate change. And therefore the Western Cape Cabinet has resolved to put climate change a permanent item on the Cabinet agenda. And so this purpose of this agreement between the University of Stellenbosch and the Western Cape government is to give effect to what we call evidence-based and data-led governance. And so our relationship now with the University of Stellenbosch is to collect proper climate change data and evidence, to indicate that we work together in terms of research in climate change, and that research and the data from this relationship will now influence our strategy in terms of climate change resilience and climate change adaptation. So that's really the significance, because we believe in research. Agriculture is a science. You need the research to factor into the science of agriculture.
And that's precisely why this data-backed information and research is important, Kevin, because if the weather's anything to go by, the droughts, the floods that we've been seeing, it seems that the Western Cape government wants to prepare itself for what climate change symptoms, of course, may be experienced there.
Definitely so, Tumelo. So I've made my way now from the main campus here to the Welgevallen experimental farm on the campus, where the actual work in the ground is being done by the scientists and the technicians on the ground here to study exactly how crops will behave under certain conditions, and also studying the best and the optimum conditions where crops can be grown under, obviously feeding this data back to scientists, which then will use that as part of their modeling when it comes to climate, to further see how they can disperse that information, or share that information rather, with the farmers and the producers within this region to see how they need to adjust or what the outlook might be in the coming years. But here to talk more about the work that's taking place on the ground here is Courtney Frolics. He's the Principal Technical Assistant here at the Welgevallen Experimental Farm. Courtney, thank you so much for speaking to us. Can you just highlight a bit more about what your work here entails, in particular what you're studying with regard to crop production?
Okay, so we have multiple blocks, each focused on certain stuff, certain aspects of viticulture. So the whole point for this is, the purpose of it is to produce grapes that students can go and do research on, different trailer systems. There's so many aspects of viticulture that is being looked at, and research is being done on it. And as you said, it's immediately going back to the researchers, and it's being analytically looked at to make decisions from the book, but then bringing it back to the vineyard again.
And just in terms of the specific weather conditions that you might apply here, do you, for instance, study the impact of sunlight during a specific time of year? And do you also maybe look at water and the volumes at a specific time of the year, and how that impacts crops here?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the... We actually have a block that's specifically focused just on that. Sun exposure, giving water in different metrics or different quantities. And we're doing in vitro, inside of the vine, where the water is going, how much water is going to different parts of the vine. So we are focusing a lot on how we are utilizing our resources on the farm, water, everything regarding the optimum growth of vineyards and how we can manage that better.
Just in closing, how important is a collaboration such as the one between the university, the climate change school, as well as the authorities, the Western Cape government, to ensure that the agriculture sector is buffered and protected, say, decades, if not centuries from now?
I think it's absolutely critical, because we, rather be proactive than wait for it to happen and then scatter around. So I understand it, and I like the fact that they are doing the studies on it, because it's going to affect our environment, it's going to affect our food production and the stability of our economy. So it's definitely an important aspect to look at, and it's a framework for other provinces in the end, once they've found data that they can use. So yeah, absolutely great.
Thank you very much for that insight there. Tumelo, Courtney will now take us on a tour to show exactly the instrumentation that they're using to conduct these studies, and how in effect it lands on their data sheets, which will then end up with the lawmakers, in turn with the producers, to ensure stability within not only the Western Cape's agriculture sector, but that it reverberates the data that they are collecting here throughout the rest of the country, to ensure for generations to come that we can still rely on agriculture, which forms a very big part of the country's economy.
No, indeed, they've been hardest hit by this inclement weather conditions. Kevin, that's where we leave it for now, and thanks for bringing this story to the fore. We'll be sure to catch up with you as and when there are developments.